Hello, everyone. It's Warriors NRL Fanatics here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel tonight. And joining me, I've got a special guest, actually. I've got the Warriorholic there in the middle. And on the other side there, I've got Sam Hewat from the SENZ radio, actually. So, yeah, it's great to have you guys on tonight. And, yeah, we're going to review the game, the Warriors versus the Raiders. Game played out of thriller, actually, in the end, Golden Point. But it's great to have you on. The Warriorholic, it's good to see you on here again. And yeah, how are you going?
Yeah, mate. Cheers. Thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm out and charging after that Golden Point win. I was thinking about trying to find a very dark hole to crawl down if we hadn't pulled it off. But I'm good, mate. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good. And Sam, how you doing? Hopefully we can hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Can you hear me? Am I okay?
Yeah, yes.
We've got you.
All good. Yeah, we had some tech problems before going live, but yeah, Sam, good to see you. How are you doing? And yeah, it's great to have you on again.
Yeah, mate. No, great to jump on and talk some Warriors. I see the comment there. Has my voice recovered? Actually, a little bit scratchy tonight, so I feel like I'm still getting over Friday night. Might take a couple more days.
Yeah, it was it was one of those games. Yeah, we'll get into it soon, but yeah, look, with this game on the Saturday, was it Saturday or Friday? Saturday, actually, was it Saturday?
Friday night.
Friday night, yeah, Friday night. Right, it's Friday night. So yeah, look, how do you guys feel like going into the game? Like, how did you feel confident, or like what was your feeling? Because the Raiders, this was a huge game because the winner of this game was pretty much going to be in the top four, or go a long way to sealing themselves in the top four at the back end of the season, which was, which we never thought would have been the case at the start of the season. But how did you guys feel with this game leading up to this game?
Mate, I was kind of like listening to a lot of the banter going on that we're going to put 30 or 40 on them. And looking back, they do struggle to score points, but with that huge pack there, and I don't know, mate, I just had a feeling Ricky would get up for them. And if I really thought about it, where we are positioned right now, I wanted a real tough battle, something that was a bit semi-final like. So I wasn't surprised. And altogether, I'm pretty happy that it actually played out that way, because I'm sure we learned a lot more from that than maybe a 20 or 30 point drubbing.
Yeah, and you, Sam?
Yeah, I think I guess going into it, I didn't really peg the Raiders as a top four team. I don't think I still sort of pegged them as a top four team. I think they're obviously good enough to be in the 8. They've caused some big upsets, but they've got that inconsistency about them that some of those other teams have, like Parramatta, obviously the Sharks at the moment. So I don't really peg them as a top four team. However, it still was a top four game. Like you said, whichever team won was going to stay in the top four. Every game, it feels like we're saying it's the most important game. I thought this was one of the most important games because it was the last big game before we have this run home. And, it was important that out of these sort of 3-4 games here in between the two buys that we did win the majority of them. So it was important for that factor. But yeah, it's quite funny as well. People talking about, the fact that it was a pretty scrappy game. We didn't play very well. We let them come back at the end. But, that's top four footy. You'll take a 1-point win against the top four team in my mind. So, yeah, it was pretty nervous going in, pretty nervous for the 80 minutes, and only relieved in what was it, the 82nd and a half.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll go through the game and go through some of the moments to start the game. So, yeah, look, it was I think it was the 3rd minute there with Tohu Harris there with a short pass to Mitchell Barnett, and Mitchell Barnett then he set up the play, and the quick play the ball to Wade Egan there with a short pass to Murata Niokore, who scores on the first touch with the footy. And the Warriors scored the opening try there, and I think it was Wade Egan played a massive part in that first try. What are you guys' thoughts on that first try that the Warriors scored there to kickstart the game?
There you go, Sammy, mate.
Yeah, it's funny, obviously up with Kempy, and he'll let the world know that he tipped Murata Niokore for this first try scorer. So I was jumping up and down just given the fact that he tipped that. But it was interesting just hearing Kempy's rationale pre-game about obviously targeting that left edge. Jared Croker isn't the best defensive centre and does love to choke in on it a little bit, which I think we saw with the Chance try as well. But like Wade Egan, the guy is playing phenomenal and still underrated. I know that the Aussies are starting to like sing his praises, and there are all these comparisons to, you know, some people saying he reminds him of Cameron Smith, etc. It's just his ability, and I think it was who's the ginger former English prop, Graham. Why am I forgetting his name?
James Graham.
James Graham.
Graham, who was saying that, you know, he's the kind of hooker that will look up, and if he notices you even half a step away from where you're supposed to be, or half off the pace, he'll exploit it straight away. So he's just incredibly smart with reading exactly what's in front of him, making a quick decision. It was a beautiful ball, great line, you know, by Marata. Such a shame that he got that HIA and didn't keep playing, because I thought he would have kept exposing that left edge. But look, it just from what everything Kempy said, it went to script, you know, and I'm sure from Webby's point of view, that probably is exactly how they drew it up.
Yeah, and we would take 6-0 lead on 5 minutes after 5 minutes. And the close stuff here got a question for you, Sammy. He's saying, Sammy, does Kempy take his words back on his opinion on Wade Egan?
I think so. Look, I got a lot of time for Kempy. I know he's a very polarizing figure. He's passionate. He loves the club. Don't even mistake his criticism for apathy, because he loves the club. But I think probably in his eyes, I think he still thinks Egan's got another level to go to, and I probably don't disagree with that. He definitely takes back the fact that there was a point where he said we would never win a comp if we had Wade Egan at hooker. He just wasn't a premiership winning hooker. I think he would renege on that now. He probably does think that he's good enough to help us win a comp, but I think he'd still think that there's another level he could go to, which, you know, I'm sort of hoping will happen this season. But if not, I think he's sort of set up for 2024 to hit that next level, because he just keeps getting better. I think that's probably the great thing about him, is that he just keeps going from strength to strength. So you have to ask Kempy that, mate, but I will vicariously give you a 50-50.
I'm pretty sure I heard him one morning where he came out off the back on Egan's performances and ate his words.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, he had a bit of humble pie that morning. And I've got to say, like, he's an interesting one. Like, I was kind of on that sort of, you know, bandwagon, particularly before I started doing this and wasn't looking at the same level of detail, that I didn't think he had the ability to take us deep into the finals, particularly in games where we weren't necessarily on the front foot. And I can understand why people are still critical, comparing him to the likes, you know, with Grant, the amount he runs, and, you know, Cook as well. And I think it's a flary stuff. But what people don't notice are those little subtleties in his game, that little, you know, the direction he'll take, like one step to get them in two minds, that I only notice when I go back and watch the second time now. And to the point, you know, there's probably only one or two hookers in the comp I would swap him for, because he's still got that next level to go to. So, yeah, he's an enjoyable one to watch for me.
Yeah, and just a bit of an early noting on the Warriors and the way they started this game. I noticed that Sean Johnson was kicking the ball quite early in the tackle count, and like he was like applying a lot of pressure to the Raiders, and, you know, making the Raiders, you know, making it tough for them to get to the Warriors line, especially. Well, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Like, early, you're noticing that Sean Johnson was kicking the ball very early in the tackle count.
My theory is, I think that the way we started that game was a reflection on the short turnaround and the flu. I think they knew they were going to run out of gas, so they were trying to run the big forwards around as much as possible and try and get as many points on the board as they could early on. That's my theory.
Yeah, I sort of think kicking early in a tackle count, not that I didn't particularly notice him doing it early on in the game, but you generally get, it's when you feel like you're on top of a team that you'd start pinning them back in their own end, because, like you said, you're trying to put a squeeze on them. You know, if you've got some points on the board, or you feel like you're dominating the ruck, then, you put an early kick in to pin them as far back as you can, catch them off guard, knowing that you're already defending them well, you're already on top of them. I'm not sure if you would be kicking early if you were behind. So I think that's probably a confidence thing that Sean feels like we're on top of them, so he'll start pinning them back a little bit more. Certainly, I think as the game got a little bit closer towards the end, he probably peeled that back. But look, his kicking game's phenomenal. Obviously, he's leading the competition in kick meters, and it's. I probably say his long kicking game was never something that I associated with Sean. It was always the short kicking game that was actually his strength. He's really developed that quite quickly this year, and it's giving us. I mean, look, there's a couple of kicks we put in there, and he's done the same over the last couple of games. But he's literally and let's contrast him with Jamel Fogarty, who put that kick in Golden Point that landed right on the try line. Charms was able to put his leg back, and we get a 7-tackle set that leads to the game-winning goal, field goal. Whereas Sean's putting it a meter out from the goal line. The perfect area to put a kick in, where you're pinning them deep in their own end, and the kick chase obviously as well makes a massive difference. And I'll just talk about two quick points on this. So you might have heard the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck podcast earlier in the week that he did with the Morning Shift boys, where they talked about what made him want to come back to the club. And it was a really weird answer where he said he watched a couple of preseason games this year, and the first thing he noticed was the kick chase. And he said that's how you know a team is primed for success, is you watch their kick chase. It shows you how dedicated they are, how fit they are, how much they want it, how much they want to win, how much they want success. You can tell a lot by a kick chase. So that was really interesting. That's the first thing that came to Roger's mind. And then, Kempy will always say, and Kempy is obviously was sort of known for his kicking as a player, helped Stacey Jones with his kicking game, which turned out to be the best we've ever had. And he always says, the kicking, yes, you need a good kicker to put the ball in the right areas, but it's the kick chase that makes a kick good. And when you see Rocco Berry flying through and you see Dallin flying through, I mean, that's what's making those kicks 20 times better than maybe they were last year or 2 years ago. So, look, Sean's, he's got the ball on a string, but I also think that what he's got running in behind him probably helps make it look, 10 times better as well.
Yeah, and just on that, Sean Johnson's at the 18th minute there, Sean Johnson's pass, which went astray there, and then Marata Niokore couldn't hang on to it, and then Hudson Young, he races away to score the Raiders' first try of the game, and it's only 6-all. What are your thoughts there on that moment there, where it was just a bit, the pass wasn't great, but Niokore couldn't hang on to it. What were your thoughts there on
he was concussed by then. That was after he'd actually taken the head knock. So I think normally, he probably would have taken that. Bounces the ball. I felt like they how you get it. I'm not blaming it on anything, but just some days you get that bounce of the ball tends to go in one team's direction. And it felt like for me, particularly in the first half, when that ball ever it went loose or it bounced, it would pop up for them. And it's pretty hard to fight against that, right? Because it's what the hell's controlling that bouncing ball. But it was pretty well taken and closed out by Young. He's got some wheels, that boy.
Mm.
Yeah, so Hudson Young, 6-all there, and then the Warriors get a penalty in the 27th minute. They take a shot at a penalty goal there to get it back to 8-6. Warriors lead there, and then the 37th minute there, Sebastian Kris looks all certain to get a try there for the Raiders to get in front. But Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, he saves the day there, knocking the ball out of Sebastian Kris' hands. What were your thoughts on that play? That was a massive play by Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, a massive try saver, not only with a couple minutes to go before the break.
Did you notice that live, Sam? I had no idea it had even happened. I thought he'd scored.
I thought, I mean, obviously, I saw the ball come loose. I thought that they had clashed heads because I just thought it was so weird that the ball had just popped, and obviously Dallin sort of stayed down afterwards. I thought that they had just completely collided in the air. I see it just one tackle of the week as well, which will make Ricky feel nice and happy from the NRL. But I think it's a tough one. Like, it's just the consistency with the bunker. I would feel upset if it happened to us because his hand did contact his head first. But
I don't know if it did, mate. I put this on Twitter. I watched that over and over, and it was a slap, right? And you look at how hard that ball came out, You tell me what a human's reaction is if your face gets slapped.
Mm.
The first thing you'll do is you'll touch it.
But I don't think it wasn't hard. Like the point I was going to make is like I don't think it shouldn't have been a penalty try because it wasn't the hand to the face that made him drop the ball. You're right. It's the fact that his hand hit the ball and that's why it came out. So it wasn't like he took the guy's head off and the ball came loose. He did hit the ball out and that is what created that play. But, when you slow it down, and all I'm saying here is the consistency of, 9 times out of 10, the bunker's going to say high contact because it's the bunker and that's what they do.
But there was
high shots. Yeah,
Metcalf's one was the same. His on Metcalf.
There were high shots elsewhere. And look, we all know that decisions don't go your way throughout the game. And I think someone's even commented in here, you just have to play better. I mean, I've always said in any sport, you can never let the result of the game come down to one decision. And it annoys me that that's how Ricky treats the game because what you're saying is, you're reducing an 80-minute game to one call. If you're a better team or a good enough team, you don't need a call to go your way to win a game. You'll be up by 20 points and you won't need the call to go your way. And, if the Warriors didn't blow the lead and that call had gone the Raiders' way, we wouldn't have been talking about it if the Warriors still won the game. We wouldn't care because the one decision didn't impact it. So you can't, and that's what annoys me about Ricky as an experienced coach is you can't, he's sticking up for his players, right? He's saying that, my boys played well and they deserve to win. It shouldn't have gone to Golden Port. I get that. But at the same time, Ricky, your team didn't do enough over 75 minutes. They left it to the last 5 minutes to start playing some rugby league. So, it was an interesting topic of discussion. We'll say that much.
Yeah. And Jacko's saying here that the bunker's more camera angles than us, and they couldn't find context, so move on. And they got the close stuff here saying that Sticky Ricky always playing the victim. He tends to have a bit of a moan when they lose games. So always finds an excuse. Yeah, he always does. I think for me.
I mean, if it's literally the last play, maybe, but that one with Pompey where he pulled back, that literally decided the outcome of a game. But when it's sort of halfway through the game, mate, settle down.
Yeah.
I'd be so embarrassed if he was our club's coach, honestly.
Yeah,
he put me off. I love how Webby will never ever blame anything outside of their control, like an external influence. He'll always focus on what they could have controlled themselves, and I love that from a coach. Makes me so proud to hear that.
Yeah, and it's like I think it's different if there's been those games this season for us where multiple calls don't go your way, and that's different because it feels like their big momentum shifters, right? You feel like you're actually playing. Yeah, you feel like you're actually playing the better game, but you're getting robbed by these calls. Whereas the Warriors were the better team for 75 minutes. You cannot say that call was dictating the momentum of the game because we were on top of them. So. It's sort of a different story when you've got multiple calls going out, and we've very much felt that before. But like you said, Webby never came out and said, I felt like we were hard done by all day. He just said, we've got to look at ourselves. And that's a lot more admirable than what Ricky does. So
I wish someone had said to them, why is it that your guys couldn't score more points when they had 36 more, or was it 66 more tackles with the ball than we did?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then with 2 minutes to go and until half time, Wade again combined for this try to Sean Johnson there, great pass to C&K, and he goes over for a massive try before going to the break there, 14-6. Actually scoring on the outside of Jared Croker, he gets caught out there. But what would be your thoughts there on that play before half time? Because that was a massive try leading into the break.
Joel Kane on SEN has been going on about that play for the past week. He just, as soon as he spotted it, he's just constantly telling everyone who listened. And even before the game on Fox, it's the Aussie version of the TAB, he's on the giving odds, and he was telling everyone that was coming. And the Raiders would have known, but they can't control it. It's so well executed.
Yeah, I was just watching the Wise Up. The analysis that he does on Instagram, talking about those sort of 2 lead runners, which it requires Sean to be so accurate with his passing. And I think that's, and obviously Chan's running the perfect line, which he did. Personally needed that to go to DWZ for a multi. but that ended up happening later on, so that's okay. But it was what I was talking about before with Croker, where he so often gets sucked in. If you watch a lot of their film, that's the edge that every team targets, because Croker loves to cheat in and leave his winger high and dry. So, obviously Webby knew that. The boys knew that, targeted it perfectly, and Sean's passing, which has just been, it's phenomenally accurate in 2023. It was just almost too easy. I was scared Chance was going to get a concussion, though, jumping low at the line like that.
Yeah.
One of those. Another one of those.
Yeah, so half-time, it was 14-6 there. So what were your overall thoughts on the first half? How did you feel going into that break? Did you feel like, obviously we're leading, did you feel like we were completely on top of the Raiders in that, going into that break?
No, mate, not at all, because we had, I think, what did they say? They had 22 tackles in our red zone versus we had 4. I think it was in the first 35 minutes, and we had 2 tries. So from that aspect, we're executing well when we got there, but they had a lot of time in our red zone that from, what was it, about just after we got that penalty, I think it was, right the way through to half time, they dominated possession there. So I felt like we're struggling a little.
I definitely at halftime was thinking look, I wouldn't say well balanced, but certainly the scoreline was what I would expect, from 2 top 4 teams, and didn't really know how the second half was going to go, because either Canberra was going to change what they did in round 15 and actually play properly in the second half, despite having all that possession in the first half, or it was going to be a carbon copy where we ran away with it. And I was expecting probably more the former. I was expecting the Raiders to have learned from round 15, where they had all that ball and all that possession, but I just think that's symptomatic of the Warriors this year, right? Like defensively, and we'll talk about the last 5 minutes in a bit, but defensively, we are just shutting teams out. And I mean, up to 75 minutes, they had 6 points on the scoreboard. And I mean, to have a top 4 side with 6 points on the scoreboard, and we did against the Sharks last week, it's phenomenal. I mean, that is top 4 material. That is top 2 material. That is Penrith material. So, it's just disappointing that last 5 minutes. But certainly at halftime, it felt. I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know how that was going to play out, but
good point here from Jacko, right? I felt like there were signs of the Rabbitohs game there. We were just going too wide a little bit early. Webby mentioned that in the post game, that just that little patience to take that extra play, because we were going wide maybe on the third or whatever, and we missed a lot of opportunities. And against a Penrith, they might not come again. So, I definitely didn't feel like we were dominating.
Yeah. So, Jacko, his comment saying I was disappointed the first half defence was good, but we blew tries with some errors and loose passes. The completion rate was about 65%. Yeah, so, that's not great at all, 65% completion rate going to half time. But to lead 14-6, was still good, and just going through another comment here, the close stuff saying here, good thing with CNK's tries, the Raiders defensive line were always retreating backwards. So what are you guys' thoughts on that comment there by the close stuff?
And I see the other one as well about getting too trigger happy on the plays and trying to do too much. I think obviously what worked against the Sharks was going through the middle. I mean, that is our bread and butter with the props and the guys that we have. And then, that earns us the ability to score out wide. But I mean, that Raiders forward pack is, there's origin players in there, there's internationals in there, there's Joey Tarpany, there's Josh Papali'i. I mean, it was never going to be an easy task to push through the middle, but maybe, because we didn't feel like we were getting that advantage, we got desperate and going wide too early, like you said. Zane. So it maybe felt a little bit rushed, but I think they identified that. I think that was quickly picked up at halftime, probably by Webby, who was able to draw on those Rabbitohs games. I mean, this is the good thing about all these games, is that these are all learning points for when we get into these situations further down the line. You'd rather go through them now than suffer them in the final. So you can draw on that experience of the Rabbitohs game. We can draw on what happened in the last 5 minutes in the subsequent games coming up. It's like you need to sort of experience these situations, I think. But certainly it felt like in the first half, we were probably just a little bit desperate maybe to expose them.
Yep, and the other close I was saying, I felt many acquisitions, and we got too trigger happy and tried to score an early play. We went away from what works for us, and that is bashing the middles and winning the ruck there. So, yeah, pretty much what we just said there on the.
And just on that, Sam, I'd be curious to hear your opinion. That I kind of, although he gets a lot of stick, I probably would have preferred to see Bunty start the first even 15 minutes, because he's very, very solid in defence and he can definitely handle those big boys, and then bringing Barnett on once they're a little bit tired rather than the other way around, which he did this way around against the Raiders last time, but against other teams, like I think they bring Bunty on. As much as Barnett is a hitman, I feel like having just that big body and Bunty there can absorb guys like Papali'i and Tapani a little bit better just in the first contact.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good point. And like I know Kempy brought up in the second half in particular, he thought that Webby would like the coaching staff would have been very annoyed with how they used that interchange with Bunty later in the game, I think. But I don't know, I guess for me personally, when I look at our best 17 with everyone fit, I'm not sure there is space for Bunty, just with Jazz and Dills. So whether or not they're trying to work out the role of Mitch now, like with it, and get him into a starting role that then complements having Jazz and Dills come off. But I sort of do agree in that because he's got that sort of bulk to him, he's able to stop guys that are a little bit stronger ball runners through the middle. But I don't know whether or not that would have made a difference. I'm not sure. I like Mitchie. I love his physicality. And I love what he brings on attack. But
I feel like we're missing that big body there, because you can't play him at 13 and Tohu somewhere else. But I think like a 13 position, or later on in the game, he's good at prop, but he needs probably a little bit more size in those first collisions. And like people just don't notice how good Bunty is on D. Like he gets, his tackling's close to 100%, and he gets maybe counted for 20 tackles, but he's involved in so many. Sam, do you know how they actually count the tackles? I've asked so many people, so no one can tell me. Like he wouldn't be the first tackler, but he's involved in 4 tackles a set. Yet he only gets credited for 20. Any idea how that works?
Well, they do. Like you do get credited for a tackle if you are a part of the tackle. Obviously, I think they give you an ineffective tackle if you just like touch them and peel off. So if you are part of the tackle but you let go, or you you maybe get initial contact, other guys jump in, you let go. I think that's counted as ineffective. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that it's sort of like it gets counted as 3 tackles when there's 3 guys involved, which is weird to me, but that is how it works. But but no, I like your point, and I do like the idea of him, I guess, sucking a bit out of a bigger forward pack early on in the game before you bring on the guys like Dill and Jazz. But it's hard, The
other part about it is like if you're going to use that interchange, right? You get into a situation like we had in the weekend, you want your best players out there and your most experienced players. So I don't feel like he's the guy you want to kind of hold things together in the last 20. So if you're going to use him early. If not, like I said, if Jazz is back, I probably wouldn't have him in there. But if he is there, I'd go first.
So that's the mistake I think they made with Bunty in that last 20, like you said. So, you can't be forced into a position that isn't, I guess, natural or potentially part of your thinking. But the hard thing with Mitch is that, like you said, I don't think. I mean, look, Jackson and Marata have those edges locked down, so you're not going to put them in the second row. You're not going to take Tohu out. So, I mean, the only space really is as a prop. And if you have Jazz and Dills on the bench, then he has to start. If it's not him, it's like it's either him or Bunty. I think I don't think there's space for both of them, but. This is the conversation obviously everyone's having now, and the same thing applies to Tamaiti and Josh Curran. There's a lot of guys who, I mean, look, if you can place a little $10 on us winning the New South Wales Cup, because there's going to be a lot of guys playing reserve grade. It's going to make them a pretty tasty proposition.
Yeah, and the close stuff's saying here would prefer Bunty starting. I see he takes the sting out of the start of the game, then gets a chance for Walker and Jazz to terrorise the middle with quick footwork. So, yeah, he's saying that we should start with Bunty or Foa. So, yeah, real interesting, that one, yeah.
Sorry about hijacking your conversation there.
No, it's all good. No worries. Yeah, it's just great. Yeah, you guys sharing your opinion. That's all good. So, yeah, Jacko's saying here the last piece of puzzle for me is experience, tough, hard and top prop with a season of first grade under his belt to support Adam Fennell-Blake. So, yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think we need another forward? Our 4 picks all right at the moment, but what do you guys think on that comment there by Jacko?
Don't forget we've got Kepu, who's a prop, right? So we haven't seen him all year.
Yeah.
He's very, very big body, that boy. I don't know. I've never seen him play.
Yep.
But I feel like Zion Mo is a little bit young. So that's why I asked Sam the question, because I got a phone call right at the end of his interview with Cam, not Smith, what's his name? No, Cam George. Whether we are actually still actively in the market, because I feel like that's probably, I'm only joking here, but you imagine putting Payne Haas next to Adam Fennell-Blake, you'd immediately be title contenders, or even what's his name from Penrith there,
Leota, Lenu,
either of those two, right? I think that's the only piece that we don't actually have within the club at the moment. If you look at all of the other positions across the field, I feel like we've got guys who can cover, but you can't instantly make people successful through experience. And I think Ali's shown that this year, that he's had some really good games, but you can see he's getting that first year fatigue that you don't get from a hardy, hardy veteran. So I'd be all keen for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most important question is the salary cap, and this is where I sort of wish that the NRL did, the North American sports did, and opened up that salary cap. I mean, most sports that have hard salary caps disclose salaries, because not only does it make it really transparent with the fans as to, where clubs are at and whether or not they're using all their cap, and you get rid of all these, sombreros and brown paper bag rumors, but you also create a whole nother dimension to your sport. The fact that we would be able to talk about who we can bring in, because we know how much money we have and we know what they're worth. It's such an awesome part of North American sport that I think is really missing from the NRL, because as much as we want to have this conversation, we can't without knowing how much money is in the salary cap. So, I mean, Cam did say today that that when they sat down as a management group and sort of saw how the season was going and looked at next year, they said, well, you don't win premierships with money left in your cap. So we need to push for this, and we need to use up every cent. I'm not sure if by that he means they went with that with Roger, and locking in some of the guys like Sean for next year, or whether he means there will be signings on the horizon, and that's the salary cap he's talking about. I couldn't really sort of read it on him, but I think it's a big call to bring in a Tino or a Haas. Like, I don't think we've got that.
I don't think we do. I mean, I think it's more like a guy like I'm trying to think of the guy's name. One of the backup props at South there who was off contract at the end of this year. I can't remember. But there are guys who've played good 100 games of first grade out there, which is what we need. Just a big body. A guy can break a tackle, can make a tackle. Because I just still feel like as much as Bunty does his work on D, we do need a little bit of momentum. But Webby said quite clearly on a number of occasions that it does injustice to the team that they're trying to develop. And they've got to fill 4 teams with the talent for next year, so there'll be a lot more coming in. But I just don't think there's a lot to expect a big prop to just come in and dominate the way Payne Haas or Tino did. It's the exception, not the rule.
And I think
how was James Fisher-Harris when he started to dominate?
How old?
Yeah, he would have been like 3 or 4 seasons in, right?
Yeah, early 20s. And I mean, Penrith is obviously is sort of the benchmark that everyone looks at. So I see a couple of comments here talking about recruiting from within. So the whole plan for a club, and I think this is what Penrith did so well with their 5-year plan. They had older guys like James Maloney bringing through young guys like Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai, etc. It's a balance of, okay, we want to set up our juniors, we want to keep talent in our region, and we want to make sure, and Cam George said this today, you want to make sure when they get to first grade, they're already coached, they're already ready, and they're just slotting into the system. You don't want them to get to first grade and you're coaching them in first grade. Like you're coaching them to be in the NRL. They need to be ready. So you only get that. You only get that by marrying up junior talent with senior talent. And that's why I made that post on Twitter the other day about how important it is for us over these next 2 years, while we've still got Sean, while we've still got Tohu. As much as we want to challenge for a premiership, we also need to be realistic that these are the guys that are going to help the juniors come through, because we don't want to be here in 2 years' time where those guys all leave, they all retire or they move on, and we want to start pulling through the juniors. There's no one really there to help them get pulled through, and we're back to a rebuilding phase in 2025. So I get the whole promoting from within. We want to do that. It's the kind of club we want to be, but maybe it's either a process that needs to be sped up over this year and next year, or we need to think about getting another experienced prop for 2025.
Because I look at Wagner and Mayu, they're both really, really good players, but they don't look to me as guys who are ready. And it was good for them to play with James Gavitt this year. I thought he, having his experience and his professionalism at his age, man, he just doesn't look like he's missed a beat. So that would have been good for them. But it's the only place within the whole across the park that I don't think we've got someone who could just step up into first grade. Every other position.
I think they've admitted that as well. Yeah. I think Kempy's admitted that they were like that conversation every time we talked to him was, we're still on the market for a prop. It's sort of fizzled out now because they signed Roger, but the problem didn't go away. I feel like they know that. I feel like they think that they need another prop of some kind. It's probably not going to happen this year, obviously, but yeah, next year, who knows if we can snag something decent, then we're a real shot, I think.
Yeah, so back to the review now. So look, second half, so the 48th minute, quick hands there from Rocco Berry and Dallin Watini-Zelezniak. He goes over in the right-hand corner, scoring 16th try of the season. So he's moved up the try-scoring ranks now, so it's great to see. And, the Warriors go up to an 18-6 lead. So what are you guys' thoughts on that try there that the Warriors scored for Dallin Watini-Zelezniak to go over? What were your thoughts on that try?
Pretty much similar to the first one, or the one challenge one, right? Similar way it's set up.
Yeah, I obviously the pass from dummy half makes all the difference from Wade Egan. So I think the initial pass already created an overlap straight away because he just hit him absolutely on the mark with Sean, and then Luke Metcalf running a brilliant line into the line, which sucked in Croker again. I think it was Croker. And then Berry obviously just quick hands. So very glad with that one because obviously big tick in the multi-column. But I wish it had happened sooner to calm my nerves.
Rocco Berry's hands in that one, like people don't give him as much. That was so swift. It was so swift quick through his hands.
Yeah, no, he's playing class at the moment. Got a lot of confidence, which I think is what Webby's done with him, which is amazing. But I probably shouldn't be revealing all of this tipping that I've been doing because it suddenly makes my commentary seem very biased. That's why I get so animated. As long as
I have to say, mate, I've got to make a quick call there. I do appreciate your ability to get hyped, even in the down games and hyped for the opposition. That's a unique talent, mate. I couldn't do it. I'll be very well done.
In the great words of in the words of the great Ray Warren, just I support rugby league. It's put me down for rugby league. So whoever, it's funny today we were talking about how biased I am towards the Warriors, and then someone in the office said, "Didn't you hear him call Jack Whiten's try?" And then we played out Jack Whiten's try, and I was just as animated for that as I was for Sean's field goal. So. I don't know. I think I just get too excited in the moment, but yeah.
I love it, mate. I absolutely love it. The energy is outstanding. I think just before I forget, I wanted to pass on. You talk about the Warriors' progression this year. I know, last year and that when you started out, you're finding your feet, but this year, your combination with Kempy has just gone to another level, and it's as good as any of the very long-serving professional rugby commentators we've produced on the radio over the years, mate. You should be really, really proud. It's
Mate,
outstanding.
you're too kind. You're making me blush.
Wouldn't say if it wasn't true, mate. Awesome.
I do appreciate that, man. That's very kind.
Yeah, so Jacko's saying here, Barry's slowly but surely developing into a very good, big, robust centre. In the Brett Tate mould, his pass to Darwin Lesiak to score was top class. So, yeah, look, Rocco Berry, I think he's shown a lot of improvement over the past couple of weeks, especially. So it's good to see him growing and getting better. And,
great comparison that actually. I think a lot of people look at guys like the big Latrells or the 6'5" centres these days, but I think there's a lot to be said for a guy like Val Holmes or Brent Tate, and he actually does remind me of a Brent Tate kind of guy. I always used to kind of refer to him as a really young, raw Conrad Smith, similar body type. He's not physically imposing, but shit, his little subtle skills when he gets them all going will be really exciting.
Yeah, so the Warriors didn't get a penalty goal, another penalty goal to extend the lead up to it was 20-6 in the 54th minute there, and then the next passage of play there from the Canberra Raiders there was a kick from Jamal Fogarty, and Jordan Rapana he goes up to score and makes it 20-10. What were your feelings then when Jordan Rapana scored that try? Do you think, we still had it covered, or did you feel a bit nervous when they scored that try? How did you guys feel?
I definitely in the box felt a comeback. I straight away just thought we're just looking a little bit conservative here, and I feel like the Raiders are that type of team, right, where you give them the sniff, you give them the confidence. And I see someone in here earlier wrote about how they basically run on emotion, which is great, when it works, but it also is bad when it doesn't work. But obviously, I felt like as soon as that try was scored, I was like, oh man, I can just see this happening in the last 10 minutes. I can see this happening big time. So I was very worried, very, very worried.
But I don't know, call me biased, but how could you enjoy following a team that can only score tries from kicks? Literally, how many attempts did they want before they had to kick it? And Fogarty's got a bloody good kicking game. That one of Rapana's that he kicked for Whiten was absolute mud. So, but then they showed when they got that last try, they've got the ability. Why the hell don't they use it? The commentators on Fox mentioned that I think it was like 4 sets in a row, and they didn't even move the ball like more than 2 meters wide of the posts. What's that game plan all about? It's not going to win you a comp.
And then obviously it's 20-10 there, and then with 2 minutes remaining, the Raiders get another try off a kick, and it was Elliot Whitehead to score. Again, it's another try off a kick by the Raiders, and it's suddenly 20-16. Now I do start to get real nervous there when they score that try. I was starting to get real tense and a bit worried. What do you guys for that try there to Elliot Whitehead, the Raiders scoring? It was starting to get a little bit nerve-wracking as a Warriors fan.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much that point I was starting to look for holes. I got to admit, I didn't leave the iPad all game this time. I was frustrated, but again, it kind of I think I'd mentally prepared for that kind of game. I didn't predict that one with 1 minute to go. So at that point, I still thought, man, we've got that little buffer there.
Yeah.
Well, this is where my frailties are completely exposed, because on the big screen, I think it said 20-14. It didn't say 20-16. So I knew that if they scored and converted, then we'd be tied up, and I didn't sort of mind going to golden point. And so, when they scored that last try, I was like, it's 20-18, and Jack Whiten has a kick. Jared Croker has a kick to tie the game. And then someone in my ear was like, no, it's 20-all, and he's kicking a win. And I was like, what? So I was probably should have been more worried than I was. But I mean, the Elliot Whitehead try, without getting too emotional here, it was a jammy try. A little stabby kick through. He was probably offside, and our defense is sort of squeezed into one corner. Chan slightly out of position. It's like, I just feel like those try. That's a 1 in 10 type try. That's not. You replay that again, it doesn't happen. So just unlucky, but you felt like the momentum had shifted big time. And, with whatever it was, 10, 20 seconds left on the clock, I just thought, mate, this is going to golden point. It's going to golden point.
I was pretty confident Croker wouldn't kick it, though, so I was all right.
Well, yeah,
getting a try ahead of ourselves here. Sorry, mate.
He was, he's the best, one of the best kickers in the comp, right? 88%, I think he was heading into that round, which is easily one of the best in the NRL. And he just completely crapped the bed on Friday night, which was great for us.
Yeah, and speaking of that try, for 1 minute and 11 seconds remaining, the Raiders go down all the way down the field, and Jack Wyden scores a try, and then we're locked up at 20 all. With only a couple of seconds remaining, and Jared Croker has a kick from the sideline there, not far from the sideline. How did you guys feel? Do you feel like this was, do you feel like Croker was going to get this kick, or did you hope, hope that he would miss?
Wrong side of the field. Just had a feeling, mate. You can look in some guys' eyes and you just know.
Yeah.
Amount of times I've been done by Queensland or bloody Melbourne Storm kickers or the like, you can just see a look in their eye. And he didn't have it. I knew that wouldn't go over. I was a bit more concerned about golden point than him getting that kick, to be honest.
Jack, everyone's talking about Jack cutting back in field and trying to make a few extra meters instead of doing his big swan dive in the corner. I actually had an interesting conversation with someone in the office this morning who raised a good point. When Hopewate got on the outside and then had Jack Wyden on the inside, why didn't someone just take Jack Wyden out? Because you can't give a penalty try 40 meters out from the line, and the clock, the zeros were up, were basically up on the clock anyway. Why didn't someone just dive at him and take? I think Curran was sort of there next to him. Which I thought was quite an interesting point. I never sort of thought of that, but
we're too Kiwi, mate. It's not in our game.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. He wasn't Aussie too, so but he probably could have cut in field, made it a little bit easier. But you're right. Yeah, on the left side is a left footer. It just reminded me of JT trying to kill that one around and hitting the post in the grand final.
Is it the steelwork?
Yeah.
Or was it off the steelwork? That's it.
Yeah. So golden point we go. The first set, Warriors defensively were very strong, I thought, the first set there. Then the Raiders there kicked, it was Jamal Fogarty. He was good all night, but it came up to that moment there where he kicked it and it just went too deep to the end goal. The Warriors get a 7 tackle set, a fresh set of 6 tackles. And the Warriors pretty much, they did it really comfortably, did they? What are your thoughts there, right there on that play there where Johnson just got that field goal to get the Warriors over the line? What were your thoughts there?
I went back and had a look at that, and there's no one within Kui of chance. So even if he doesn't get that, he was out past the 20, I think, before anyone got to him. So the way they played that set of 6, I reckon they got within range anyway. But it was just so clinical. You couldn't have. It reminded me of that try we got against the Sharks. I think was it to even things up for them, where we just straight up the guts, every tackle, and then just boom, it was executed with. I don't know. You couldn't do that better again. Sean Johnson's first ever, sayonara droppy at Mount Smart, right? He's never done that at home.
At Mount Smart, it's probably true. Actually, he's done it. Plus, it's the 3rd time against the Raiders, isn't it? But
yeah.
I think
he said it was. It's the first time he said it was in the post conference thing, so it was awesome.
Oh, okay. Oh, good on him. The I mentioned before the Fogarty kick that landed just past, and that sport, isn't it? How brutal. Had it been a meter forward, then we don't get a 7 tackle set. But I do agree with you. We probably would have sort of been in that position anyway. I thought. I think it was Tohu's carry that made the difference. So Tohu just. Rather than hitting the line and stopping, got that extra leg drive, which not only gives you the extra meters, it also means the defensive line doesn't have time to get set, which they didn't. Next carry, I think it's Walker, and then Fanua Blake sets it up on 4th tackle. The only thing I thought was it was like a slow play the ball to come back to Sean, and so as they were going to play it and that sort of lagged in the ruck, I thought, oh no, that's too long. He'll get it and they'll be up in his face. But I felt like the Raiders just didn't get up quick enough. I know Horsburgh was right up there ready to charge it down, but I felt like they had a chance to get up a bit quicker. But, just clinical. And I said to Kempy, I said in the commentary, it was written for Sean, with what he's doing in 2023. It's just sort of the most classic, it's most Sean Johnson thing he could have done, was slot a field goal to win. So,
but it was so well struck too. You remember that the second one
pick.
against the Raiders that time he got 2 in a row. It was a real hack. It was about that high just over the bar, but that was pure.
Yeah, no, it was very well taken. And look, at the end of the day, like I said, people complain that we shouldn't have lost that game and we sort of lacked defensively in that last 5 minutes. But it was a top 4 game, and like you were saying, you sort of expected it to be that close. Like I didn't say golden point in the pre-game, but I sort of said 12 and under. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a tussle. So it's one of those things where you look back at the end of the season and all you're going to see is a win and 2 points. It's sort of you don't care about that last 5 minutes.
And how often do you see a semi like that? It's not a great game to watch because there's so much on it, and the pressure, and you'll see those little mistakes like we had there. So I thought it was a perfect sort of warm up, getting ahead of ourselves, assuming we're definitely getting there. But hey, that comment from Jacko before about Timoko, mate, you take him out of that Raiders side, and I don't think they get close. Because he created so much momentum. He's so strong, so quick, that footwork. Ooh, I would like him to come over and play with us.
So full time score was 21-20, and tries to the Warriors 3 tries, Raiders 4. Marata Niokore, Chancellor Klugstad, and Dallin Watini-Zalesniak, and Sean Johnson with 2 out of 3 conversions. For the Raiders, Hudson Young, Jordan Rapana, Elliot Whitehead, and Jack Wyden, and 2 from 4 conversions there for Croker there. So just want to look into the stats now for the game. So we'll go through the game stats here. I'd like to go through the stats. So position-wise, Warriors 46%, Raiders 54%. Completion rate to the Warriors was 77%. They're 31 from 40. The Raiders with 80% with 36 out of 45. All runs 166 to Warriors. Raiders 189. All running meters 1,570 to the Warriors. Raiders 1,743. Post contact meters 557 to the Warriors. With Raiders 590. Warriors 5. Line breaks to the Raiders 5. Tackle breaks 21 to the Warriors. Raiders 37 tackle breaks. Offloads, Warriors 3, Raiders 7. Kicking meters there with Warriors 696, Raiders 652. And tackles made, 418 to the Warriors. Raiders 343. Missed tackles is still a bit of a big one here, a bit of an issue. Warriors 37 missed tackles, Raiders 21. And error count was quite high. 11 errors for the Warriors, Raiders 11 there. So what are you guys' thoughts on those stats there? What stands out to you in terms of those stats?
Sam, I'd like to get your opinion on this. Like, you're looking at those missed tackles, right? And I don't really worry about it because how many of those missed tackles were on Timoko? And I think it's just we're staying in our line and not getting too panicked when you've got that guy sort of bouncing around. A lot of times everyone will kind of come charging in. And by doing that, you create those holes, which is where the line breaks occur. But we're quite happy to let that guy bounce out of the tackle. We've seen it week in and week out. And I saw a stat, it was mentioned on the radio somewhere. I think we got an average of 28 missed tackles per game, which is about third in the comp. So to me, it's not leading to tries or line breaks, so I don't really care.
Yeah, I think you don't want to be giving up missed tackles in the middle of the park. That's where you'll get killed because that's, teams get in a row and then all of a sudden you're backpedaling. So I think sort of on those edges when you're not in the danger zone, like you said, you do sort of let a guy bounce around because as long as your defensive line's set and you've got someone able to cover, then it's not a biggie. And I think too, like often there's a lot of missed tackles on kick returns. So, a guy will get a kick return, he'll sort of run into the line, he'll step out of one tackle and then get picked up by somebody else. So, I'm not that concerned about it. I mean, it definitely was higher than it probably normally was, and certainly a few missed in the final 10 minutes. But I still think that our defense is up there as one of the best in the comp. We just got unlucky a couple of times on Friday.
Particularly our middles, like all of our middles are averaging over 90%, well over 90% with their tackle rate. So, it's an interesting one because I think you just got to. It's a line breaks you've got to look at really, and that's what line breaks are what lead to the tries. And if we're not giving up line breaks, it's not too bad. But Egan, what did he have? It's like 95% or something for 55, 91% for 55 tackles.
Which is also, I mean, talking about Wade Egan, that's been the massive improvement in his game as well. It's just that defense. Like, he used to get bumped off quite easily, not all the time, but he would have these moments where he'd get bumped off, and it would completely, it would lead to a an opportunity for the opposition. I just feel like he's so much stronger in defense, and so is Sean, who I think this is the thing when you're talking about the team, right? And someone mentioned it with Wade about being playing in behind a good pack. Like, everyone in this team is having their career best season because of everyone else around them, right? So Sean at the moment is much better defensively because he's got the confidence of having Murata inside of him, or on his outside shoulder. These guys that, make a big guy running at you a little bit more stomachable because you've got, the guy next to you is going to do his job. And then from Wade Egan, that the pack's going to get a good roll on. So you have an opportunity out of dummy half to shift the defense and sell them on something because they're already running backwards and they're already second guessing because they've got these big guys running at them. So it's like everyone is playing to their best because of what the other people around them are doing. As much as talented as they all are, I think that's the strength of Webby, is that he's just turned this roster, which for years has had potential. He's finally unlocked all of them at the same time. He's just sort of turned the master key, and it's just sort of all the locks in the door have all sort of turned at the same time.
It's the combination. Like, look at them versus the Sharks, for example. There's more X factor in the Sharks, but they're not playing as a unit. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how we were for a long time. You're relying on RTS as X factor rather than as a team. I mean, Sean's playing outstandingly. But to a man, they're doing their job.
Yeah, and this is when I talk to people, mainly people that are sort of casual followers of the NRL, it's like, look, Charles Nickel-Klokstad is not a marquee fullback for any side. Sean Johnson before the season, no club really wanted him except for the Warriors. There's one or two guys that you'd look at like Fanua Blake and say, yep, he'd be a starting prop and he'd be valued by any team in the NRL. But like Chance is, I think, fourth in meters for the competition, right? And like, if I went around and surveyed, and I even heard the Fox boys on Saturday or Sunday night talking about the Dally M Fullback Award. They talked about Drinkwater and they talked about Reece Walsh and they talked about Dylan Edwards. There was no Chance mentioned in that conversation, right? Yet here he is as the fourth best meter reader in the competition. I think he's sitting in the top 10 for post-contact meters and line break assists and that sort of thing. It's like, we've got, like you said, this team of guys that aren't superstars, and we don't have, I'd even argue, we don't have a marquee signing in our team. Eden Fanua-Blake is the closest thing that comes to a marquee signing when you think of Cleary, Hines, Latrell, Tedesco, all these guys. Like, we don't have that. There's no one in that team that is a marquee signing for any club. Yet here we are, because together, like you said, together, Webby's, patched them together. And that's, I mean, it is arguably one of the greatest coaching performances of, I'd say, the last 10 years. I mean, think back to Todd Payton is the closest that came to this last year. But outside of that, there's really no coach that's done what Webby's done in terms of the turnaround, in terms of unlocking a roster as much as he has. So, and
I asked Jazz how long he reckoned it took, and he said a day. He said the first time they sat down and listened, heard Webby break it down and what he said about them. He said that whole atmosphere in the club changed from day one. That's how quick he did it, because he made it so simple and real.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of talked about it with that comment about Tohu and SJ, Sam, like we honestly thought this was a 5-year rebuild, right? And then we thought maybe 3. No one actually thought that we would be in this position. I feel like we're probably in the best window as far as an overall roster and the way the team's playing with consistency and control that we've ever had. And I compare that against the 2 times we've been in the grand final, whether we get there or not. I feel that this team is in a window right now.
Yeah. I think.
Yep.
I sort of asked. I tweeted about that and asked Cam about that this morning. Like when they sat down with Webby and Cap, because obviously brought on Kempy again and signed on Webby, they must have had an idea in their heads of a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, whatever it might be. And Cam George sort of admitted, he said, look, it definitely has taken us by surprise how quickly it's happened. And I think there's a bit of luck involved, right? Like not much changed in the back office. Like people talk about the management of the club. I mean, Cam George was there all through the last 3 years. We've still got the same owner. So, in a way, they got a little bit lucky. I mean, this is the same management that hired Nathan Brown. It's the same management that had Stephen Kearney, and so they got a bit lucky with Webby. But yeah, we now juggle this, this year and next year. And I think next year is even a better chance for us because not only are we bringing in RTS, but we're only going to get better from this year. But then at the end of next year, you're sort of looking at it going, look, I don't know. I don't know what happens in 2025. I mean, we're not going to have Tohu, so there's your ball playing 13. We're not going to have an experienced half. And people say, oh, well, Tamati Martin can pick that up. Well, yeah, but what if Tamati Martin goes down injured? Then all of a sudden you've got guys that have only played in the New South Wales Cup and maybe 5 to 10 NRL games. Suddenly they're superstars. We might lose a couple of others just to, they might want to go elsewhere. They might, contracts come up and players want to move. We're going to lose a couple of big names that way. So, I think we just have to relish the fact that we are having an amazing season this year, and probably we are going to play finals football. We might play a home final, which would just be insane. And then next year we're going to be pushing. We're going to want more, and we're going to arguably challenge for a premiership. We just got to take that with a grain of salt. I would take a I mean, maybe I'm selfish, maybe I'm impatient, but I would take a premiership in the next 2 years if I then had to wait another 10 years. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I just want to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The All Blacks can lose the next 10 World Cups. Sorry, guys, if we can get one premiership this year or next year.
Yeah. So, who would you say you guys if you look back at this game, who would you say your standout players, like your players that really stood out in this one? Who would you say for you is the player that stood out the most?
I find it very hard to nail down, like I said, this team effort.
Whole team,
for me, like you can't question SJ's contribution, but he's only doing that because everyone else is doing the dirty work. And when I do those, the first three of the 1, 2, or 3 players of the day, like the fake Warrior M's or daily M's, you see every week Tohu, AFB, SJ, CNK, which is a sign that our senior players are stepping up. But I think that's just, you see the flashy stuff. It's the guys that are out there. Jackson Ford. That guy has stepped it up to a next level. You take his effort and his 80 minutes out of that game, AFB doesn't stand out as much. So I don't know. I can't pick one, to be honest.
Any of the names really. SJ, AFB had another great game. I think Chance had a fantastic game once again. I think he ran for over 200 meters, and but I mean the thing. I think I have to give it to AFB because the guy's basically playing 70 minutes, so he has one little stint for one little breather, and he still makes over 200 meters. Barely misses a tackle. And, once again, like Zane, to the point of it's not just the fact that the guy makes 200 meters and makes 40 tackles. It's the fact that he hits hard. It's the fact that when he runs, he creates holes in space, right? He bends the line. He does that little jinx step and he goes through. So it's like you look at paper and you say, oh, yeah, he had a good game. But it's the intangibles, I think, that Adam brings. And a little, he's that silent leader, right? He's not the vocal leader. He's I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to take the game when it counts most and put in defensive efforts and everything. So if not Sean, CNK, I'm going to give it to AFB. Just pick an acronym.
I mean, he's the one guy that if we were, I mean, SJ, I'd be really, really concerned. But I think you've got guys there who can do a role. And, I think Volkman, I'd love to see him be given the 7 role with the team firing around him because I think he's a genuine 7, not a 6. AFB, you take him out of that. Excuse my French, where's effed. He's odd because he doesn't run that fast, but he draws 4 guys in every time.
Yeah.
Sucks at it. But have you seen him puff this year? I've not seen his hands on his knees once. How does a guy his size, 89 post-contact meters, that's more than some props are running. That's his post-contact meters. Insane.
Yeah, it's impressive. Adam Blake, and I've just this stats on screen. He's on 205 all running meters, 89 post contact meters, and 34 tackles made as well. It's not just what he does with the ball, as well as defensively as well. So very, very. I think you got to put him up there as one of the top props in the game. A lot of people are saying Payne Haas, but I'd have Adam Fanua up there. Might be biased, but that's probably what I'd have him up there for sure. I'd have him top right now. Like I think
he's not the flasher, so it's the guys that, like I said when I talked about Rocco Berry, it's the flash players that stand out and people value. I'd take Tino over Payne Haas because of all the noise that comes with Payne Haas. Yeah, and he gets injured a lot. AFB hasn't been injured this year. How?
No.
Oh, Zane, what have you done?
Well, my name's not Devlin. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. So, who would you say is your man of the match for this game? Like your 3-2-1. Like, who would you have at your 3 and your 2 and your 1? First, the Warriorholic. What do you reckon? Regards to this one,
I'm going to have to agree with Sam here in AFB. I'm going to go. I'm going to say Jackson Ford, like 51 tackles at 90%. Out on an edge there. And I'm going to go Rocco Berry. I just, he made that one poor pass, but other than that, he's so clinical. And that kick chase game, he's got his ability to time that tackle if he's not able to compete. He makes that tackle and you guarantee he makes the second one after that. I mean, like there may be other guys who play better, but I'm going to give him a point purely on the fact that I think he's progressed significantly, and I think he delivered in a big environment.
I will go AFB for the 3. I like Rocco Berry actually to feature in there somewhere, but I'm going to go AFB. I think I'm going to go CNK for the number 2. And I just think Wade is just so important to the team. And, he's not scoring tries and setting up tries every single week, but I think he still was a massive part of us winning games. So I'm going to give him the 1. But, Share
the love, bro. We managed to cover a few of them. And Chance was crook as a dog, bro. Like, you hear him coughing and stuff on that thing. And you can see him like he was blowing his nose and that. Man, that's
the EJ flu game.
That was true.
Yeah, so my 3, I've gone with AFB there, and I've gone with CNK 2. Number 1, I'm going with SJ. Yeah, that's my 3-2-1 there for my man.
It's coming half the team, boys. Well done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just the same key players. Yeah. Yeah. So on to the next part of the stream now is the player ratings. The player ratings I like to do generally as well every week. So starting off with fullback there, fullback was Chance Klukstad, CNK. What do you guys reckon? What were you guys' thoughts on his performance? And what do you give him out of 10? A rating out of 10 in terms of the way he played?
Mate, I'm so biased. He's so fine. 9.5, mate. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in reality, right, you might expect it. To me, a perfect 10 game is outstanding, but literally what more could you have asked for him in that situation? I don't think there's much more he could have delivered.
Yeah.
I'll go for a 9. I'll keep it whole. I'll keep it round. I'll give him a 9.
So this is those are his stats here on the screen there. So he scored 1 try, he had 22 all runs, all running meters was 194. So he's right up there with the running meters. Post contact meters was 69, 5 tackle breaks, and 2 missed tackles there. So look, you guys have gone with a 9. I'll go with an 8, an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I thought he was great, but I'll go with an 8 there for CNK there. So that's what I would go with. But Darren Wachini-Zalesniak on the wing there. What do you guys reckon? I've gone with an 8 as well out of 10. What about you, the Warriorholic, and Sam? What are your thoughts here?
I'll let the boss go first this time.
Look, I guess got a little bit caught out on the final try. Yeah, I mean that can be a bit of a symptom of Dallin's game just from time to time. I know defensively he's gotten a lot better, but he didn't get a lot of action, did he, compared to what he normally does? I'll give him a 7.5.
I gave him I went through and gave him, I think it's maybe 8. Based on his efforts without the ball this time, I think he made some pretty timely tackles there. Like, he made a lot of those dirty runs where you're just not getting the momentum, but he just ran straight head on into 4 middle forwards and took the hit. So, yeah.
Yeah, and his stats there, 1 try, 11 all runs, 92 all running meters, so slightly down on what he had last week, but 2 tackle breaks and 7 tackles made there. So, yeah, those are...
It was odd to see our centres get more running meters than him this week. Was unusual.
Completely forgot the try-saving tackle as well. That's very disingenuous of me. So that'll bump into an 8. Give him the 0.5.
Yep, and to our centres now. So you got Rocco Berry there. What do you reckon? I'll go to Sam first. What do you reckon on this one with Rocco Berry? I've given him a 7.5 out of 10. What do you reckon?
I think really strong again from Rocco. Like he's I just think he's a confidence guy, and when he's given that confidence by the guys around him, he thrives. So I think maybe at the end there in that last try where, like I said, they both sort of cheated in, a little bit exposed, but maybe was suffering from the fact that momentum wasn't on their side. But I still think he had a fantastic game. So I'll give him an 8. I'll give him an 8. I think give him an 8. I'll give him an 8.
I gave him an 8.5. 134 metres is his most metres this year.
Yeah.
18 tackles at centre is a lot with 0 misses. Yeah, 8.5.
Yeah.
I always do.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you got.
I was just going to say, I always do find it hard, with player ratings. Like, ideally, I'd go back and watch every single player. I'd watch the 80 minutes and keep my eyes on every single player. And obviously, when you're commentating, you're trying to watch them all anyway. So, I think you often, and even with DWZ, just completely forgot that try-saving tackle. You sort of miss certain moments. So overall, I just think Rocco, he just does so much that I felt like had that potential in the past and just has finally realised, and like I said, maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe that's what Webby's instilled. Maybe that's what the guys around him have instilled. But, to miss no tackles against some pretty potent centres and, Croker and Timoko, I think, he deserves 8.5.
He does those things that you notice on the second watch. Like, I have to go and watch it again to be able to do a review because I'm so hyped up in the emotion. I don't remember half the things that happen. But just if you watch his little effort areas and the accuracy of a lot of what he does, most players, most fans, and I would never have looked at it before I started doing this. So, 8.5 for me.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same. I like to go back and watch the game before doing my reviews and previews. So, that's 8.5 is fair. I think it's fair for Rocco Berry. I thought he was very good, actually. I thought he had a good game. But the next centre is Adam Pompey. What are you guys' thoughts here on Adam Pompey, his performance?
Again, his most running meters for a game this season at 122. And 21 tackles he made with 1 miss. 8.5 for me as well. I think he's another guy. It was great to sort of have a chance to ask Chance what he sees as his qualities that, the average player is not seeing. And I think if you really watch him, he does a lot of good stuff. But again, he's just not that flashy. So people tend to think he's crap. No, I like him. I thought good.
Yeah, I think obviously a great improvement from last week. I think he missed 12 tackles or something last week, which, you sort of did see that. It was probably the only sort of negative last week for us as well. So I think a good turnaround from him, and he does cop it a lot. Like mentally, I'm really impressed with how tough he does stay, because like centre is the hardest position. I personally think it's one of the hardest positions in rugby league. You've got so much responsibility on attack and defence. You're often the guy who can stuff up an attack. You're the first person they look at who cheats in on defence. So I was impressed with his bounce back. So yeah, I'm going to give him an 8.5 as well.
Just quickly on Jacko's point there, which is about Rocco Berry having, he's coming from rugby and basically learned league in first grade during COVID, and at Redfern, not play, or Red Hill, was it Red what? Redcliffe. There we go, one of those, the red places. Not in our system, so I think he'll be finally thriving of being in that structure. Even when he's in Cup, he's playing in Webby structures, so his growth will be accelerated, I think.
Yeah, well said there. Yeah, and Marcelo Montoya there on the other wing. What are you guys' thoughts there on Marcelo Montoya? I gave him a 6.5 out of 10. What do you guys reckon?
Mate, I thought he was pretty solid. 160 meters again. I feel like I don't know what it is, but our play's so right-hand centric.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be having the same impact. But what did he do wrong all game? I gave him an 8. That's just a slight side note in there. I think that's one thing that I would look forward to if Tamati Martin came back. I think he unlocked our left side. We got a lot more tries down that side when he was there. And I think Metcalf's still kind of struggling to really unlock the players around him. He's doing well himself. But, I think that's one reason we're suffering a little bit, or when you see Montoya not getting all the points in his involvements.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's like you said, you can't really fault a guy if they're not using him as much as the other edge. But, similar to DWZ, he takes those carries from the back that can get us out of trouble, that can, start the set on the right foot. His intensity, always love his intensity on attack and defence. So I'm going to give him an 8.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and Luke Metcalf, what do you guys reckon there on Luke Metcalf?
I mean, it's tough. He made some serious mistakes, but to his credit, he didn't drop out of the game. He kept in it. I really thought his defense, when he put that hit on Papali'i 1-on-1, full speed, took the first initial hit, stayed connected, and then put him down. That's a really good sign. I gave him a 6 purely for the fact I just think he struggled to really connect with the game, and that maybe, those first couple of balls dropped his confidence, but I'm sure he'll bounce back.
Yeah, I think, at times was probably out-muscled by Whiten and Fogarty. Those are two experienced guys who are bigger bodies as well. So that's maybe where Luke Metcalf is exposed a bit more, and where maybe he needs to sit wider in the line. I don't know whether he, came in too quickly and then was found out as a result. But I sort of agree with you, Zane. You credit to him for sticking in it, and he's another one of those guys that just week to week is just growing so much. And I almost want to give him extra credit just for the fact that he's, still developing and is in the thrust of, playing number 6 for a team that's in the top 4, So I would be a bit more generous and give him a 7.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6 for this one. Look, I thought he was solid. Obviously, he had some moments in the game, but I thought he tried his hardest though. But yeah, 6 for me for Luke Metcalf, and the halfback Sean Johnson there. What do you guys reckon here? I thought it was another good game by Sean Johnson. I'll say a 9. What do you guys reckon on this one?
Go, Sam. It's your turn to go first.
I'll give him a 9 as well. I think, the kicking game, as much as we love his line running and that passing, a good kicking game can not only turn a bad set into a great set, but it puts so much pressure on a team, and Canberra were just being forced to start so deep in their own end. They were being forced to start in awkward positions. If we didn't get quite as many meters on an attacking set, it still pinned them deep in their half. So, and he brings I see that comment there. He just brings that energy and brings that leadership, I think, I think I'm right in saying when Webby came on to talk to them about Golden Point, Sean, along with others, said, Webby, don't worry, we've got this. Don't worry about it, we've got this. And, it is exactly what you want from a senior player. So, yeah, I'm giving him a 9. I think he thoroughly deserves that.
Just quickly on Chris's comment, mate. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I gave Metcalf, I think, a 9 last week. I really think he's outstanding, but he just didn't have his best game. And I rate him to bounce back, and he's going to have to with Tamati Martin coming back. 9 for me as well. It's interesting, talking up the kicking game, because that was one of the first, in the initial rounds, that was a bit of a bugbear for people, that his kicking game wasn't that great. He was sort of landing the bombs out on the 20, wasn't getting the depth right, but he's really sorted that. And, we can see now why they kick so often to that right wing against South, to Johnston, because of the Rocco Berry chase. But at the time, it hadn't occurred to us. But as soon as Webby tells us, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But it's a little bit concerning, I think, in one aspect, though, that he does dominate the kicking so much, because I don't think there are many teams with a halfback. So that's why he's obviously leading the meters for kicking across the comp, because he does 99% of it. But it's good to see Metcalf has got a boot on him. Volkman had a boot on him. Tamati Martin doesn't. So I think that's another thing that Metcalf's favour there. What more could you want? So much time. He reminds me of Dan Carter in that year he played against the 2015 World Cup. He was an old wily veteran, but maybe he just controlled everything at a speed that looked like it was in slow motion.
Yeah.
Yep. And Adam Fanua-Blake, it's not running out of superlatives for Adam Fanua-Blake each week. He's been incredible throughout the season. But, what are you guys' thoughts on his performance in this game? For me, it was another brilliant performance by AFB. So I'll give him an 8. What about you guys?
Geez, you're a tough taskmaster, bro. I gave him a 9.5. He's rumoured to be $1 million a year player.
Yeah.
And I totally think that he's worth it right now for what he's contributing to the team. Tohu does a lot, Sean does a lot, but I just think if you take AFB out of that pack, neither of those two are able to do what they do. So 9.5 for me.
Yeah, well, my 3 points of the game, and so I would have to give him more than the guys that got 9, so 9.5 as well.
I don't know what he'd have to do to get a 10. Maybe it's just like.
Well, I always hate player, when the Herald do their player ratings and no one ever gets a 10. It's like, well, what do you need to do? What do you need to get a 10? I mean,
he smashed someone literally like a Fed just literally bowled Papa Lee in this massive hit or something. Maybe it took it up a notch. I don't know. They didn't get a try, did he? That was last week. Or did he get a try? No, it was last week.
No, last week,
Wade Egan? What about Wade Egan? What do you reckon on this one?
I mean, I just want to give him a 9 every week, because I think I don't care what the stats say. The guy offers so much to the team that people will never see. And even myself, I still feel very ill-educated. I get told certain things and I notice them, but from everything you get told, from what you sort of observe, even if it's just one pass, it's the right pass and the way he delivers from dummy half. So I'm going to give him a 9 as well. I just think, he's such a massive part of our team winning. Look at the games we lost this season, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't a part of them. They were the games where he had the HIA.
Yeah. Well, people give me shit for a lot of ratings around the 9 mark at the moment, but honestly, based on what you can realistically expect from their personal potential, I don't think they're right this season. There's a level, I guess maybe if he kicked a little bit more and maybe he linked with his runners a little bit more, or the people outside him when he goes for those runs. But I gave him an 8.5. You can't expect anything more. The guy's just a machine.
Yeah, I'll go 8 for me. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for Wade. I think he's been great over the past couple of weeks. When he's playing for us, he's been very good. So Wade Egan gets an 8 from me. Mitchell Barnett. What about Mitchell Barnett? What were your thoughts there on Mitch's performance.
He's one of those guys who he has games that stand out more than others.
Yeah.
But even in the games where he doesn't stand out, he's actually contributing just as much. And I think this weekend was one of those ones where he didn't really stand out. But when you went back and watched the replay, his contributions are right up there. So I gave him an 8.5.
Yeah, I think they're sort of a victim of their, like even with Metcalf, like they're a victim of their previous game. So I thought Mitch was fantastic last week, and then this week, not as impactful, but still a great game. But it's sort of, you're sort of, he didn't have a great game when, it's just he had a fantastic game the week before. I give him a 7.5. I think I don't really put this down to him. I think they did muck up the interchange a little bit, and I think that just took a little bit of shine away potentially about what he could have done in that game, or what he wanted to do in that game, or what they wanted to do in that game. So a 7.5, which is still, he still, I think, was important, but compared to last week, I think it's just slightly underdone. So I go 7.5. Yeah,
you're right there about Egan's runs. We need to learn to run off him, but I do think he does have people beside him every now and then, but he doesn't. Maybe, I don't know, it's the peripheral vision or something. They're maybe a little bit too far behind, but we'll get that right. And it's particularly Metcalf running off him. Ooh, that's one thing Harry Grant does, mate. He will always find the runner. He will very rarely die with the ball when he goes.
Yep, and Jackson Ford. Well. Yeah, Jackson Ford. What do you reckon here, Jackson Ford?
Very, I don't know if they got very odd with his running meters. Was right down at, was it 49 meters or something? But I think he got similar to, they're very rock solid in the middle. And I think we found a couple of situations where we didn't get momentum off DWZ and Montoya. And that's when he came in and took those runs where he was literally running into a brick wall. Maybe why. But 51 tackles and 5 misses on an edge is a pretty solid effort. So I'm going to give him an 8.5.
Yep. Yeah, Sam? Yep.
Yeah. No, can't disagree. I think, we're going to talk about obviously Murata very, very shortly, but I think that was sort of Murata's game to dominate without the HIA. Jackson's never going to be that guy really, but I just do wonder if things change mentality-wise of whether they target a left or right edge, given a guy like Murata gets an HIA. So. Still good, but not, like I said, as impactful probably as previous weeks. So I give him a 7.5 as well.
I feel like he's got a bit of the likes of Michael Luck in him. That, you look at Michael Luck and you think, what the hell would you have that guy in there for? But it's just like he never stops. 82 minutes. And he's still going. And that's what Webby said. He's the fittest guy in the club and just keeps going. So I think it's nice to have that one workhorse rather than the big flashy guys. And me and Waz Up often had a discussion about this. Do we need a Olakautu or somewhere on the edge, that big, real dynamic ball-playing edge back rower to complement one of those two guys? But I think we've found a way to break those tackles in a bit more structured way rather than the big, Hail Mary offload. So I'm happy with both how those guys are combining.
That I guess that was sort of my point. Like, I agree with you. I think having a workhorse on one edge and that sort of power runner on the other is a perfect combination, which is why I said, when Murata got the HIA, it's like, okay, you lose that big punch on one edge. So does that put more pressure on the other side, or, where does that now come from? And I don't know whether I'd have to look at the stats. I don't know if they use him more when Murata's not playing. I'm not sure, but I just felt like, given the circumstance, a little bit down. So 7.5.
Yep, yeah, and I've got him as a 7 there for Jackson Ford. But Murata Niokore, what do you guys think? What do you think here on Murata Niokore? I've gone with a solid 6.5 out of 10. Obviously, I don't know.
Too high, too
low. He started off pretty well, but
I knew what I was going to give him. I thought, wow, that's pretty high compared to he's usually 2 points below me. He played 20 minutes, but he got 16 tackles.
Yeah.
11 tackles and 16 meters, right? So if he played 80, you calculate that out. If he maintained that, that's a pretty solid impact. But 1 tackle break, 1 line break and a try, and all those tackles within 20 minutes. I think he was up for having a really solid impact. So it's a shame.
Yeah, I really think it was like Marata's game, to be honest. And just in the first 20 minutes, I thought, yep, he is. And as Kempy pointed out in the pre-game, like he's going to target that right edge. It's going to, or left edge for Canberra. It's going to be his bread and butter. It was just all set up from. I just gutted he got that HIA. Really thought he could have had, first game back off his suspension. And I thought he could have absolutely run amok. So I was gutted. I mean, I don't think you can really give him a high score given it was 20 minutes. So I'll give him a 5.5 because, it's simply based off minute. But, he probably could have done very well. Just on Jacko's point there, maybe it is Jackson Ford's alter ego. I think you saw that early on. Like I just remember the first game against the Knights in Wellington and just being really surprised with how quick he was and how easily he broke the line. I just think that's quietened down a little bit over the last month or two. And like I said, maybe that is because they target the right edge more as a sort of hole for the back rower than they do on the left, because I think he's got it in him, but I just don't think we've seen as much of it.
I feel like we've really changed those roles a couple of times because in the first 4 or 5 rounds, both of our edges were running around the sort of 70 to 80 meter mark. Then all of a sudden, up until this week, they were well up over 100. So I guess there's maybe a slight idiosyncrasies. And like Chance said, like literally, it would blow your mind the level of detail that is going into this craft. He said that you're getting Super Rugby coaches come in to learn off them, and they're just astounded at the detail. So it wouldn't surprise me if every week they've got these little subtleties the normal human can't see, that how they adjust that. But it'd be interesting if you could do like that player tracker while you watch a game to see what he's doing.
Player cam.
Yep. Yeah, and just a comment here. Jacko's saying here that Ford can be more of a workhorse, can break the line, has a turn of pace, and the close stuff is saying here Ford has the potential to be a top tier hole runner. He's got it in him. So yeah. The
key is we'll have him for bugger all, and he's an example where we're going to get cap pressure. Who's going to sit like, and Metcalf as well, 250, I think it is. We've got him on a year or something like that. Both of those guys for unders, they're going to be worth a huge amount on the open market, and they're probably both keen. You wouldn't be opposed to the idea of going back overseas. So that's going to start putting pressure on us when they come up for negotiation.
Yep, and Tohu Harris there, I thought it was a very strong performance again. I'll go with 9. What about you guys?
Yeah, I gave him a 9 as well, even though he only ran 90 metres, but 50 tackles, 3 missed. And it's just every one of his runs and his meters means something. He's like a bloody octopus. He's physically soft to touch. Have you ever shaken his hand? He has literally got the softest grip you'll come across, and his hands are just... it literally feels like it's soft. He must be malleable, because he just gets through some holes and the way he shimmies with that big body. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he played 50 odd minutes and he made 50 odd tackles. There was a bet at the TAB, I think, and it was Toy Harris 50 plus tackles, and someone told me about it. I said no chance, and then he went. So I'm going to give a massive kudos for that.
What
and like
was
I
that
said, I can't even remember, but I was just like, 50 plus, no way. But, and then that, I think it was his run that set up that field goal. Breaking through that line, getting that extra step just gave us such a big push moving towards the sort of 30, 40 metre line. So I give him an 8.5.
Yep, and to the bench now. So you got Bunty Afoa. What do you reckon there? The Warriorholic on Bunty.
13 minutes at that time of the game was always going to be pretty hard from him. I gave him a 6. He again, he got in there, made his tackles. He had a couple of runs, but didn't really break the line too much.
Yeah, I've talked about that. Just think it was probably a poor interchange decision from the coaches, and I think, like I heard, Webby was quite upset, like after the game. Like sort of stormed off or stormed back into the coach, or gave the coach a spray or something. And I think it's probably around that sort of thing where they just stuffed up that that role with Bunty, so it's no fault of his own, unfortunately. But yeah, when you play that many minutes, you can't be giving a guy a high score. I'll give him a 5.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just give him a 6 here. I'll just give him a 6. Yeah.
I thought you were going 4, mate. I thought you were going 4.
I was going to, but nah, I don't want to be. I wasn't going to be that harsh, but yeah, I'll give him a 6. 6 for me for Bunty. Yeah, it's pretty hard with the minutes. He's just not when you're not getting him a lot of minutes.
Although it's minutes away, I can't drop under 6 unless the person's had like a,
me too.
Kane Evans kind of effort, mate. Yeah. None of these guys deserve it because the shorters are out there. They're working their asses off. So 6 is my last. I'll go.
It's like when I do book reviews, I never give lower than a 3 because I feel like I've always learned something. Even if I hate the book, I still learn something from it. So I have to give some sort of credit. And I think it's the same. It's like, look, unless it was Talakai the week before, then you give him sub 5. Or if it's a minutes thing, like if the guy plays 2 minutes, well then you can't give him a high score. But
right, I usually don't score. Yeah.
Yep, and Dylan Walker. What do you reckon on Dylan Walker?
43 minutes there.
Yeah,
I struggled to I didn't really focus too much on him, but I do like the fact that he's getting into that ball playing role, and we've got those variations. I found around the time of the particularly in that Broncos game, we were way too Tohu centric. He was getting so much ball at first receiver, and Sean was playing outside him, and it just slowed everything down. So I like that. That's kind of there's a bit of variation, and he's got the soft hands on him, his acceleration and his speed across the ground. Yeah, not as big a standout game. I give him an 8.
Yeah, I like once again, symptom of having an amazing game last week, probably a game changer, to not playing as big a role. But like Wade Egan, it's sometimes the intangibles that Dills brings, with his energy and the way he attacks the line and the impact of his tackles. So look, he wasn't going to make 50 tackles, he wasn't going to run for 200 meters, but they're important jobs that he does. Probably just because last week was such a good game for him, I'll take him down a peg and I'll give him an 8.
Have you got your work mic on?
My work mic?
Yeah, so good. It's really nice quality.
It's literally just the computer. It's just
maybe it's because you're close. It's very nice.
Yeah, nice.
I like it. Very nice.
Yeah, I've gone with an 8 there for Dylan Walker. Bailey Serenin, what do you reckon here?
Didn't play big minutes. What stood out to me is I saw him put some shoulders into some ribs, literally hit some guys really hard in the ribs. I feel like he's having a little bit more impact on the edge when he comes on now that I don't feel he had before he had that stint at hooker. I feel like when he had that stint at taking over hooker, it just gave him a bit of confidence after that first game. He improved his passing, he got involved. But yeah, he drops out for me once we've got the likes of Jazz back in. But I thought he was all right. I give him a 7.
Yeah, probably not far off as well. I was probably thinking 6.5 or 7. I think he made 12 tackles and missed 3 or something, which doesn't look good on the stat sheet. But limited minutes, and he plays a pretty tough role. They obviously have him there to almost play as a utility should they need it. But they're expecting him to play through the middle and on the edge. It's he's got a pretty hard role. He's not going to be there, right? When Jazz and Dill, when Jazz is back and it's Jazz Dills, he's probably not going to have a role on the bench. So solid enough, but yeah, I'll say 6.5. I'll stick to a 6.5.
Yeah. I'll go around that mark. So 6.5 for me. Josh Curran was the last player coming off the bench here. What do you reckon on Josh?
I can't go first again. Seems to be me.
Yeah, you're crushing it, mate. You're crushing it.
Sam.
I've had a massive day, literally been on the computer all day, so I popped the sleeping pill about 10 minutes ago, so it's starting to kick in and make it amusing.
Well, I mean, obviously, not as, some of the other guys, not as impactful as he probably has been in the past. I don't know how many minutes did he play. Do you have that in front of you?
48.
Zane?
48
minutes. But I don't think he ran for too many meters. He's just another tough one. Like, I don't know if he's in my starting 17 if we've got a fully fit squad. I don't. Yeah, it's a tough. I always have this debate. Like, do you need a big man on the bench? Like, if you've got Dills and Jazz, who are obviously going to play in the middle, but can cover a utility role, do you then have to have a big man on the bench that probably takes up a second rower spot? I don't know. So I don't know if Josh is going to appear that for me, but I love his energy. Like, I just love his enthusiasm. It's sort of like Jackson Ford. It's like, yeah, he's not going to be, he's not going to get 3 line breaks a game or like a Brisson Nikita, he's not going to run for over 200 meters and score 3 tries, but the intangible energy I love from him. So I think probably this week a little bit down. I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, I mean, overall performance, I think probably around a 7, but that tackle was outstanding. When he folded some guy, I don't even know who it was because I was so focused on Ginge coming at him. And I thought he made some really timely tackles when we were on our line for that long period, like 2 or 3 tackles in a row that he was almost making by himself. I'm going to digress. Little Stephen kicking in. I haven't even had Red Bull. Who is your bench in a best case scenario, Sam?
So I think for me, it's probably Dills, Jazz. It's really hard on whether I throw Tamati in there because I think he can be the hooker that comes on and gives Wade a 20-minute break, or start for the first 20 and as Webby likes to do, and then bring Wade on. I think he can play that role, but then also be there if a fullback, a half, a centre, anyone goes down. So I sort of wrestle with, do you not waste a spot, but does that mean that he has a spot on the bench? But I think it does. I think he needs to sort of be in the game day 17. So I've got Jazz, Dills, him, which then sort of means, in my mind, you need a big prop. I know Jazz and Dills are going to play in the middle. They're going to play that role, but I think we could still use having a bigger body, whether that's Tom Ale, whether that's Bunty. That's probably up in the air for me. I think at this stage I'd lean more towards Bunty. But I also think Tom Ale's playing a great role as well, that little cameo that he tends to play for 20 minutes. But I chop and change all the time. So
yeah. I think it all just comes down to whether you want to play the prop or play them early. Like Bunty, if you want them to start, if you want that late impact, I think Ali's good. I do kind of like the idea of having Tamati Martin on there if you can get 3 big enough bodies around him. It wasn't something I'd initially thought. Walker, Curran, Jazz, and Barnett is a pretty impactful bench that covers a lot of positions when you've got Walker and you've got Curran did a really good job at centre when he had to cover them. But if you could get Tamati Martin in there as a cover, because I think in those tight games you don't want to lose an outside back, or if we lost Charles or whatever. Yeah. So it may be worth having a gamble, because we proved on Saturday that we can get by, or Friday, that we can get by with a 3-man forward bench rotation against a huge pack.
I think too, like with just what you were saying there, with depending on what you want from the bench, like what Bunty and Tom Ale or Mitch Barnett, what they offer as props is very different to what Jazz and Dills offer. Like if you're Mitch or you're Bunty or you're Tom Ale coming on, you're essentially coming on to give somebody else a rest. Dills and Jazz are coming on as specific impact players. They're coming on to change a game in a way. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like whether or not you sort of need that big man, just if they're just there for a break, is that a waste? I mean, I think moving into finals, it becomes way more important because, like you said, you don't want to be in a semi-final and you lose your half and you not have anyone, that can play genuinely that position. So I like Tamati as, he's played fullback, obviously plays in the halves, probably play centre in a pinch, but probably can just play a hooking role for the first 20 minutes if that's how they want to use Wade. So that's where I'm leaning, but like I said, it's an ever-changing beast.
Yeah, I think we'll see a few variations. I have a feeling we're going to rotate a little bit. We should, to give guys like Tohu, AFB a bit of a break. Maybe we still keep them in the game squad, but they get way down on the minutes, and maybe they play off the bench or something, because we've got, particularly AFB and Tohu, I feel like we've got to re-energize them. Like if they've got niggles, let them get over it, because they're so vital. I think SJ just seems in a good zone that maybe you don't give him a break. If his ankle's fine. But we're lucky in the fact that we've had so many injuries to core players and suspensions that we're going to be so much more refreshed than a lot of the other finals teams have gone through Origin and haven't had the missed weeks injuries. They're just like maybe have a niggle. So exciting.
Yeah. Well said there. And so that's the player ratings and that's the review. Just want to ask you a couple of questions before we end this show tonight. What for you guys moving forward over the next couple of weeks? Where do you think we're going to finish in the top 4 at the moment? Because we're sitting in the top 4 right now. But do you think we'll stay there, or do you think we'll go any higher than in the 4 right now? What do you reckon? Because looking at our draw, looking at our run home, it's pretty good run home for us. What are your thoughts there?
I think the Titans will be a good indicator, right? They're effectively out of it. Coming up against a team like them, are we able to step it up to a level, put them out of their misery? Manly may be interesting still. You know, they show what they could do last night. We have the ability to beat them all, and then depending on how things go, we could end up second. We could be first, or we could be. I hope we don't end up out of the top 6. I want that one final game in Auckland.
Yeah,
Sam's going to make sure I get tickets, even if I'm like his tech guy.
Yeah. Well, I think the good thing for us, obviously an easier run home, but just looking at through the schedule now, like a lot of those top 8 teams play each other, which is fantastic. So we're playing essentially no one inside the top 8. And the Rabbitohs are playing the Cowboys and the Storm are playing the Sharks. They're all playing each other, which means there's points getting taken off teams around us. I think because of that, we probably will make the top 4. Whether or not we are a top 4 team, I still think the Cowboys are one of the best 4 teams in the comp at the moment. I think the Rabbitohs, when they get Latrell back and Click, are going to be a top 4 team. So, we will be a top 4 team on the ladder, but whether or not that will translate into, us going through to a semi-final and a grand final is another question. But I can see us sort of dropping a game just purely out of, you don't. The thing I always go back to is, I think it was Kevin Campion, who said this to us, and we heard from Louis Brown today, who obviously played in the 2011 grand final. You don't want to run too early, because what happened in 2011 is they went on this massive run towards the end of the season. They went on a run during the finals. By the time they got to the grand final, they were emotionally and physically spent. And that's why they got steamrolled. So, in a way, whilst I want us to win all 5 games and I want us to finish, 1 or 2 type thing, in a sort of weird way, I want us to be challenged so that by the time we get to the finals, we are, we're at the right peak where we need to be. So I can see us maybe dropping one just out of a sort of negligence or a brain fade, or maybe we're resting a couple guys or there's injuries or whatever. But, even 4 from 5, I think is going to put us well inside the top 4. Don't think we're going to win. Don't think we're going to win the minor premiership. Sort of don't want to. But a home semi-final, whether that's in round 1 or round 2, I think, or home final round 1 or round 2 is just going to be crazy. The one little caveat I will give you guys is that there is a bit of a yarn circulating at the moment that the NRL won't let us play a semi-final at Mount Smart. They want to take it to Eden Park. They want 50,000 people, etc., which just baffles me, given it's the spiritual home. It's like Penrith Stadium holds 22,000, same as Mount Smart. They've never had to do that.
It's like forcing them to go to bloody Stadium Australia.
Or Stadium Australia. So look, that's something I've been hearing bubbling away. It would just piss me off royally if that happened. But the thought of a home final, whenever it is, man, it's going to be like an atmosphere like no other. It will just be one amazing day.
I think we'd go close to packing that out. I honestly do. It would be
Eden Park, or
yep. If it's a fine weekend, man, I think we'd go close. Particularly, we're going to have to have been on a roll to get there, and whoever we're playing is likely to have a relatively solid domestic following. Like we see every week, there are non-Warriors fans at the game, and you'd have to imagine they'd travel too. So.
Yeah, I'm not quite as bullish. I mean, I can see it for sure, but going to Eden Park, the ticket prices will be higher. There'll be residents associations to contend with. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Whereas, talking to Cam today, their number one sort of thing today was the season was to get more people into the stadium and bums on seats. That's meant a lot of discounts, a lot of ticket packages, and all this sort of stuff. So they're not concerned about money. They'll pack out Mount Smart. They won't up the prices because it's finals. Everything will be as it normally was, and I think that's a lot better from a fan service point of view than just adding an extra 20,000 people. But yeah, let's hope it doesn't get to that. Be classic NRL.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and just I'd like to thank Sam and the Warriorholic for coming on. It's been a joy having you on and giving up your time and reviewing the game, chatting all things Warriors. Both of you are very passionate about rugby league and the Warriors, so it's great having you on, Sam. And keep up the good work with SENZ Radio as well. I always listen to your podcast and that with Kempy and that, and your commentary is always great to listen to as well. So thanks for coming on, Sam. I really enjoy having your thoughts on the Warriors.
Nah, appreciate it, mate. I see that little comment from Chris. Webby on this week, mate. So we'll have Webby on Wednesday for running it straight.
Oh, good man.
Awesome. Bye week. The players generally, we give them a week off, but Webby doesn't get the luxury. But thanks for having me, Christian. I always appreciate jumping on, man. And as always, love all the work you do, man.
Yeah, no worries. And Warriorholic, thanks again. It's been a joy having you on.
As I say, I apologise, mate. I had a very long day and it was an energising discussion. I thought, man, I'm going to sleep tonight. So I had to turn the engines off a bit there. But no, it was a great chat. Sorry we hijacked it a little bit there, but Sam and I haven't had a chance to catch up and chat footy for a while, actually. Yeah. So I do apologise. You get the goat in the room, you want to pick his brain.
Shut up.
Mate, you're the goat of calling the what's his name out? Alan Mack might disagree, but no, I love the passion, mate. It's been strange that I've never got that massive, I don't know, affinity with the voices of rugby league in the past in New Zealand on the radio, but yours, mate, it's literally it's right up there.
Oh, mate. Yeah, I've got to get out of here before you make me blush again.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. And thanks to all the viewers and in the live chat there for interacting as well. And all the questions and comments have been great. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And make sure you don't forget to like this live stream as well. If you're watching it back, make sure you click the thumbs up, like the live stream, like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And cheers everyone for watching. Have a good rest of the week. And go the Mighty Warriors, and I'll see you guys all soon. Cheers, everyone.